what a personal brand is really today. It's about the digitization of reputation. But then, if that's such a simple concept, why is it that so many people are failing at this? Why is it that so many people are struggling? Well, part of it is because simple doesn't mean easy. In fact, here's what I want you all to do. Everybody, if you wouldn't mind, just stand up for a second. We're going to do a really quick exercise. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you touch anybody or do anything weird. All I want you to do is everybody turn and face the person to your left. Everybody look at the person to your left. Okay, great. Nicely done. Now everybody turn and face the person to your right. Okay, good. Now here's the tricky part, and here's where the choice comes in. I want you to think very hard, and then I want you to turn back and face the better looking of the two. Once you made up your mind, you can sit back down. I love that. Some of you are looking at me. Thank you very much. I love that because it's so awkward. It's so awkward. And yet, it demonstrates an important point, which is that just because it's simple doesn't at all mean that it's easy. And so I want to introduce you to our first framework that our team has come up with that we call Shehan's Wall. So we call it Shehan's Wall because they named it actually after one of my colleagues, Peter Shehan, who originally kind of taught me the concept in sort of a business realm, and then we've adapted it to personal brands. And the way that this works is that there's basically two groups of people in any industry, any geography. There's two groups of people. There are those who are unknown. They're struggling with obscurity. And then there are those who are well-known. They have notoriety, right? Tony Robbins, Brené Brown, Gary Vaynerchuk. You got Oprah, The Rock, these kind of people, right? They're very well-known. And in between the two groups is this huge invisible wall that we call Shehan's Wall. And what most people do is most of us who are unknown, we look at what the people who are well-known, what they're doing, and we go, if I want to become like them, I'm going to do what they do. And that, on the surface, seems like it would make sense. And so you go, well, Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about lots of topics. Web3, sports, music, entertainment, social media, like business, marketing, a lot of different things. And you go, well, I'm multi-passionate too, and I'm going to talk about lots of topics because, Tony Robbins has events on money and date with destiny and health and AI and talks about unleash the power within and all these different things. So we go and we talk about lots of different topics. And then we're all struggling because we're talking to lots of audiences because we go, well, grandma is following me, and then my friends from high school, and I don't want to look stupid to them, and then some of my customers and some of my colleagues are following me, and then this side hustle thing or this hobby I have, and so I'm kind of trying to talk to all those people, and so we have lots of audiences we're trying to reach. And of course, you got to be on all the profiles, right? So we're on Twitter, X, and Meta, Facebook, and we're YouTube, and Pinterest, and Instagram, and yada, yada. And then every time you go online, somebody new is showing you how to make money with a new business model, right? And they're going, hey, if you want to get rich, you should launch a course. No, you should do a mastermind. No, you should do high-end retreats. You should self-publish a book. You should become a speaker. What you should do is you should do destination retreats. No, if you're The Rock, it's like we're launching tequila and a clothing brand and a shoe line and a water company. And you go, multiple streams of income. I want multiple streams of income. And let me tell you, multiple streams of income is the stupidest piece of advice on the internet today. The reason is nobody who got rich from multiple streams of income. We have 5 billionaire clients, personally, that I work with. 5. All of them got rich from one thing. And this is the problem in the thinking, is we have too many topics to too many audiences on too many profiles with too many income streams and business models, and we bounce off the wall. And the reason that we bounce off the wall is because of a simple concept that I actually wrote about in my very, very first book, Take the Stairs, years ago, that says, we got 2 Take the Stairs fans, that's awesome. It was widely read. And here's what it said. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And Lewis Howes was our first client, right? We never expected to be doing what we do today. We sold a company in 2018. I had been friends with Lewis. He called me up, said, hey, any chance you would be willing to help me? We're growing a lot. We have, they had 30 million downloads at the time, and it takes 6 years or something to get to that. And I said, sure. So we took him through this exercise, and we call it the revenue streams assessment. And he listed out 17 revenue streams. And he was so proud of that because all of his friends are like free plus shipping and course and membership and summit and all these different things. And I was like, dude, you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. You're a small business. It's really simple. If you have 10 units of resource, what's a unit of resource? Time, money, team, technology, prayer, focus, passion, whatever your units of resource are. If you have 10 units of resource and you divide them across 10 initiatives, each initiative gets an average of how many units of resource? It's not that hard math, okay? Forward, work with me. 10 units of resource across 10 initiatives. How many units of resource per initiative? 1. Very good, okay? Now, we didn't teach Lewis how to be a podcaster. We just said, we were the ones who said, Lewis, what would happen? Because at the time, his podcast was a traffic source for everything else. But what we realized is that was the thing that had the most natural momentum, that he enjoyed doing, that was generating a little bit of revenue, not a lot of revenue, but it was easy. And we said, what would happen if instead of doing all of these things, we shut them all down and went all in on one thing? And to Lewis's credit, he did that. We shut down multi-million dollars of revenue in one conversation. Shut it down. I was teaching his mastermind with him at the time. Shut it down in one night. We announced to the team, hey, this is gonna disappear. And he went all in on the podcast, which is, we call that big cojones, where I come from, right? And that's what he did. And what happened is, over the next 2 years, he went from 30 million downloads to 500 million downloads. Not because of a podcast hack, not because of an algorithm or a famous guest or somebody sending an email blast, because of strategy, of going focus on fewer things and do them better. And if you put 10 units of resource on one thing, the likelihood that you're going to beat everyone else in that one thing goes way up exponentially. So this is why we all struggle, is because we're distracted. We have diluted focus. By the way, this is why I'm behind on my email, because I have big ambitions and I have big goals. The reality is that with my kids every day, this is what my life looks like. This is what I'm doing. You want to know what I'm doing? This is what I'm doing. So then you go, okay, so how do you break through the wall then? If you doing all these things is how you bounce off the wall, I'm going to share with you the single greatest piece of personal branding advice I've ever received. And I wish this was a Rory Vaden quote. This, unfortunately, is not a Rory Vaden quote. It's not from Brand Builders Group. It is from a mentor that I had early in my career, a guy named Larry Winget. And Larry said this, and the first time I heard it, I knew it was right. Larry said, the goal of a great personal brand is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Why is Neil's business and brand and event growing? Because he's exploiting his uniqueness in the service of others. He's figured out what he's really good at, and he's using those skills and talents in the service of others. Visually, it looks like this. We want to figure out the one thing that you could become the world's greatest at. The one thing, right? If you think about a wall, all right, just use the actual literal metaphor. If there's a concrete wall and I'm swinging a sledgehammer and I'm hitting here and here and here and here and here, nothing is going to happen to that wall. I'm just going to get frustrated and tired. But if I pick a spot on that wall and I hit it the same spot again and again and again and again, over and over and over. At first it will be frustrating just the same, but eventually the paint will chip. Then there will be a crack. Then there will be a divot. Then there will be a hole. And then sooner or later you will punch through one little spot. And as you punch through, you reach through that little spot and the entire wall comes crashing down. It is true, right? I mean, you're going to hear from the living legend, Gary Vee, in just a minute, right? Gary does so many things. He does so many things. But y'all, in the beginning, Gary Vaynerchuk talked about one topic, wine, on one platform, YouTube. And that is how he broke through the wall. Now, here's what's crazy. Once you break through the wall, you can do whatever you want. Gary can do whatever he wants. The Rock, Oprah, they can do whatever they want. They've broken through the wall. You haven't. right? If you want to get people's attention, you have to become the world's leading expert, leading authority, best case, best in business, best example of X, and that's how you get there. And it is by answering one simple question in one word. And most personal brands spend hours and hours and tens of thousands of dollars on all this stuff, and yet they cannot answer the first question of how you build a personal brand in one word, which is, what problem do you solve? In one word, can you answer that question? What problem do I solve? The reason that matters is because what people spend money on is they spend money on solutions to solve problems. That's why we spend money.